All right, hey, what's up guys? Coach Mac, Play Fast Football. Today we're going to do a quick video on something that I've noticed in the last 2 or 3 years, a trend that I've picked up, and that's blitzing and actually going after athletic quarterbacks as opposed to the old-fashioned way of maybe trying to keep them in the pocket. Make sure you check out some of our partners, GameStrat, sideline replay system we use at Bishop Kenny High School. I use it at the last high school I was at. Probably been using it for the last 5 or 6 years now. Great product. Great customer service. If you're looking for highly reliable, highly affordable, make sure you check out GameStrat. Dome Headwear, which is the head company we use for Play Fast Football, and Bishop Kenny uses it as well. Completely customizable. Go online, design your own hat. Build your own hat. Every hat has a story. Make sure you let Dome help you tell yours. Baker Sporting Goods, the company we use for our sideline gear, spirit packs, players gear, all of our coaches gear, fan gear, online stores that we build through them for your school spirit items. So make sure you check out Baker Sporting Goods, JustPlayFB, which is the playbook software that we use. It's a unique teaching tool. You can quiz your players on playbooks, game plans. You can use video. You can use diagrams. It's also the best play drawing tool on the market. I use it on my Patreon site, or if I'm ever going to speak at clinics, that's what I use to present. So make sure you check out Just Play. And then Difference USA, the ultimate striking machine. You get thousands of reps without needing a partner. You can set them up right in your weight room. We have 3 in our weight room here at Bishop Kenny High School. You can get all your reps on striking, developmental skills that kids, or develop the skills that kids need to become proficient strikers. You can change the coil inside so that it gets tougher to lev the pad in as kids get older and get stronger. Perfect for in-season, off-season. Check out Difference USA. All right, so I think for a while, and myself included, definitely maybe part of the older guard, when you were playing an athletic quarterback, I think the theory was always, let's keep this guy in the pocket. Let's assign a spy to him. Let's make him beat us throwing the football, right? So for us in our 3-down world, drop 8 world, for us it would be, let's make sure that we're trying to get the edge of the pocket with our outside rushers. Let's try and make sure the nose understands that we are trying to flush the quarterback back into him. And then let's use the mic as a spy in case he gets out of the pocket. We can play all our normal coverages behind it. We can try and make him beat us with his arm. We can try and make him throw the ball. And again, right now I'm just talking about rushing an athletic quarterback. I'm not talking about design quarterback runs or quarterback read game. But I think this was the older version of what you would try and do. And you would say, hey, let's make sure that we have edges to the rush. Make sure that our outside guys know not to rush deeper than the quarterback and allow him to step up easier. Make sure that we understand the integrity of our outside rush. Let's make sure that we understand, all right, our nose is going to be the guy that we're trying to flush the ball back to inside. Okay, so our nose needs to make sure he understands what he's doing with his rush, and then our mic can fit it off the nose depending on what the nose does. And we're playing our normal coverages behind it. We're playing our 7-man coverages, split field coverages behind it, whatever the case may be. And we're going to try and make that guy beat us with his arm. But what I started to find, the more I started watching the last year or two teams attack Lamar Jackson and some of the athletic quarterbacks in the NFL, and what I started to find was they were presenting more pressure looks, especially on passing downs, to where maybe they were getting into some of their pass rush looks, where they're presenting these pressure looks, and now they're giving some version of what may appear to be zero coverage, and now they're showing pressure. And by showing pressure, a couple things they're trying to do. The first thing they're trying to do by showing those mug looks, or the mug they got looks, is they're trying to get the back to stay in. All right, so they're trying to get the back to stay in the protection, so that if the back stays in the protection, they can free somebody up, so that if they don't get home, all right, if they can't win a one-on-one and they don't get home, now with the back in the protection, they can afford to pop somebody out and gain an extra player. And I think that's where the pressure looks and you know, the evolution of what's going on in the game are becoming so important now, is I think the teams are finding different ways to play combinations of these coverages. So it used to be pressure, right, and especially like as an Alabama fan, I remember watching the times when Johnny Manziel beat them, and it would always seem to be like a mobile quarterback, a guy that can extend plays. If we rushed 4 and play our pattern match and we had guys dropping to match patterns and the quarterback got out, we were not in position to play them because we were essentially man matching a lot of those combinations in a zone match theory, if that makes sense, all right? So they're playing their Ripley's match or whatever they're doing, so they're matching pattern distribution, which means we're chasing things to get into a better coverage position, to make smaller windows to throw the ball into. If we don't get home, quarterback evades, and now we have nobody with eyes on the quarterback. If we pressure, it used to be the old man-free deal, or you know, possibly even if it was zone pressure would obviously be a little bit better because you want eyes on the quarterback. But if it was a man-free deal, then it was one of those deals where, well, if they get the back out and we got to cover the back and we're playing with a post player and we don't get home in man-free, now the quarterback's going to scramble for a while. So quarterbacks that could extend plays, quarterbacks that could challenge a defense if you didn't get home or you didn't have eyes on the quarterback at the second level, those were the teams that would give a team like Alabama fits for years, right? And Johnny Manziel beat them, and you know, a bunch of other quarterbacks obviously had some success against them, but that was always the typical guy. And in the NFL, what you're starting to see, all right, is you know, you're going to get to the Super Bowl and you're going to have Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes when they're both healthy. They can extend plays. They can make it a nightmare for defenses. You're seeing, you know, the Josh Allens of the world and Joe Burrow and guys that are becoming more athletic. They're extending plays. They are keeping the ball alive. They are giving the defense fits with their ability to do those things. Lamar Jackson is obviously the pinnacle example, prime example of the athletic quarterback in the NFL, and they're giving defenses fits. So what defense have decided to do now is, if we really want this guy to beat us with his arm, then why don't we make the ball come out of his hand? So the old guard, or the old way, and the way I did it for a while was, we wanted to beat us with his arm from the pocket. Don't let him out of the pocket. But if we give him time to use the pocket and stay in the pocket, all right, then is he really getting rid of the football the way we want him to get rid of the football? And if we don't get home and he gets out and we're trying to match patterns or cover it up because we know there's, you know, we're not pressuring yet or we're not pressuring a ton, if he's going to be in the pocket and we're matching routes, can we play him if we don't get home? Well, if you go to a theory where you're starting to give these pressure looks, all right, and you're starting to give some of these exotic looks where, you know, even if it's the simplest rush with no games on, we know right now that by doing that, if we mug both these A-gaps, the center is going to turn one direction. He usually turns opposite the back. All right? So now when the center turns opposite the back, we can get one of our linebackers one-on-one if the back is in protection. Okay? If the back decides to release, that's where you're starting to see a lot of the peel pressures. Because now if the back releases, and this would be the side I'd be alerted for peel, where the back is, if the back gets out and we peel, now we're going to get a free rusher inside if they turn to protection. And when they turn to protection, we can pop out so that if we don't get home, we can have another guy that can either play the underneath throws of the hot theories if the ball does come out of his hand, or we can pop out to have eyes on the quarterback so that if we don't get home, we can make sure that we can play him. So trying to create pressure looks where the ball is going to come out of his hand, because if we're double mugged and they try to get 4 out into the route, that back's got to block somebody, assuming that they think all 6 are going to come, and you're given a presentation of all 6 coming, and at some point all 6 have to show. If you're going to give these looks, you may even have to show a 7th guy. All right? So when you present these types of looks, now what you understand when you do these things, okay, is you now understand that by presenting these looks, you're going to try and challenge that quarterback to say, if we all do show, that ball's got to come out of your hand. And if it's Lamar Jackson or guys like that that you're worried about beating you with their feet, then why not give them looks to make the ball come out of their hand? Now, I don't think you can sit, especially in the NFL, I don't think you can send 6 and play 0. I think you have to be able to drop out of some of these. I think you have to be able to pop out and send 5. All right, but I also think you have to be able to send or give the illusion of sending 7 with somebody else up at the line of scrimmage getting ready to go. All right, to where maybe now you're sending 7 in some fashion. All right, so if it was double A gap there and it was thicker through there, I'm outside the possible peel for the back. Now I'm presenting that picture to where that ball needs to come out of your hand. There's 7 of us, you only have 6 blockers. If you keep that tight end in, now we're either going to have to add on or bring an 8th player. But we are giving you the look of pressure and trying to dictate that the ball comes out of your hand. So I think for a while the way we approached it from the defensive side of the ball was make him beat us with his arm. Don't let him beat us with his feet. Don't let him beat us with his feet. So let's be very passive in our rush and let's keep spy players on him. Well, number one, they're probably better athletes than the spy players. And number two, if we don't apply pressure, then the ball is not exactly coming out of their hand. If the ball coming out of their hand is how we want them to beat us, then let's force the issue and make the ball come out of their hand. How do you do that? You present these blitz looks and you present heavy pressure to where there is some type of protection issue or some type of hot throw, all right, or some type of sight adjust that the offense needs to make the ball come out of his hand. So some of the NFL defensive coordinators did was they got smart with their analytics and they started looking and they said, look, when we don't rush this guy, or we don't try to pressure him and we try to keep him in the pocket, he tucks it up and runs more than when we're actually blitzing him. So they went back and they were having a hard time handling some of these quarterbacks, and they went back and said, all right, let's look at the numbers when we blitz them. All right, and let's not just look at how often we're getting home, how many times we're hitting him. Let's look at how many times the ball comes out of his hand. That's really where the analytics world is growing and developing, and I think guys are getting smarter. We have to understand the analytics that we're trying to get out of what we're studying. If the idea is to get the ball out of his hand, then let's make sure we look at the pressures that got the ball out of his hand, and let's not look at the pressures that got home or the pressures that got hits on the quarterback. If we want the ball out of his hand, let's look at the presentations that we showed that got the ball out of his hand. Whether it be these 7-man, these 6-man, some type of, if there were any type of overloads from a side, right? So if you had some type of theory, if you were, let's say if you were in the odd world and you had some type of theory where you had somebody walked up, or maybe you had two walked up off the edge. So maybe you had your Mike and an outside linebacker walked up off the edge. All right, and then you had safeties, nickels, whoever it is, getting ready to play some version of man, or it could be some version of vision and break. That's another theory I've seen where they show man, but because they expect the ball to come out of the quarterback's hands, they can break on the ball. Brian Flores did it with the Dolphins to Lamar Jackson. That video's out there. You can find it on YouTube where people look at that scheme and they blitz them 35 times and almost the exact same blitz. I don't think it's the exact same blitz, but it's a similar theory. So maybe you're showing overload looks and you're trying to create, all right, the idea of the pressure that's coming from one side, so you're trying to get the ball out of his hand. But when you go back and you look at it analytically, what we're trying to study is if we want to get beat by a guy throwing the ball, and we want the ball or his arm to beat us, then we need to make the ball come out of his hand. So the old way of going about it, which was the most simplistic way, was, okay, keep the edge rush, don't rush deeper than the quarterback, make sure we know how to retrace if we get behind the quarterback. If you're an even front team, make sure your two interior guys understand, all right, how to push the pocket, all right, and make sure your outside guys understand how to keep him in there, almost building that wall, kind of like the run game, where he's got nowhere to go but to stay in the pocket, and you're allowing him to stay in the pocket because you want him to beat you from the pocket. But at the same time, the ball's not coming out of his hand, and he's actually tucking it and running it more versus 3- and 4-man pressure than he is versus 5-, 6-, or 7-man pressure. So then you just flip the script and you turn the argument on its head and you say, look, we're scared to come after this guy because if we don't get home, he's going to hurt us. All right, well, let's figure out some coverages we can use within our pressures to where we can show pressure looks, get the matchups we want in the pass rush game, get the ball to come out of his hand because we want him to beat us with his arm. The only way we can get him to beat us with his arm is make him throw the ball. So if we make him throw the ball by giving him these pressure looks, are there ways that we can peel the back, pop players out, get in extra guys somewhere so that if we don't get home, we still have eyes on the quarterback? Right? So your 6-man pressures, 2 under 3 deep, your hot pressures, eyes pressures, whatever it may be. All right, and guys and defense coordinators are getting really smart with the exotics of the presentation that they show to get the ball to come out of the quarterback's hands while still protecting their players on the back end. So still playing man peel with a post player, all right, or still playing man peel with an underneath cut player that has vision on the quarterback because we still want to make sure these guys are so athletic if they get out, we can handle them because if we're in zero and they get out, it runs for days, right? That's the other one you would see. Pressure a quarterback, don't get home, zero coverage, everybody's got their back turned. He hits you for 40, 50, 60 yards. Quarterbacks in today's game will hit you for 70 or 80, where in the old days that might have been 8, 10-yard scramble. It's now going 80 yards for touchdowns. So you look at the analytics and you say, okay, we're not rushing. We're trying to keep him in the pocket. All right, we're trying to push the pocket with the inside guys, but we're trying to contain rush with the outside guys. And we're trying to put coverage behind it and force him to throw the ball into our coverages because we don't think he can beat us throwing the ball. And then you look at the analytics and you go, okay, well, when we don't rush, he tucks it up and he runs more so than when we send 5, 6, or even 7. So flip the script, send 5, 6, 7, come up with coverages that protect your guys so you're not just playing zero, mix in some zone stuff or some cut, pop-out players, however you want to look at it, and you end up finding out that when you pressure, he doesn't tuck it up and run. The ball comes out of his hands, and that's exactly what we want. Okay, so sometimes as the game evolves and you look at the game from the highest level down, I think you have to look at why the game changes and what forces the game to change. And I think these types of quarterbacks have made defenses rethink how they're doing things. And the old theory would have been, if it's Dan Marino or Peyton Manning back there, let's pressure them because they can't move. All right, but if we pressure them, the ball's coming out of their hand, and that's really not what we want from them. We would rather them beat us with their feet. Whereas the athletic quarterbacks, we want them to beat us with their arm. So we decided that we were going to very safely rush them, use spy players, all right, or maybe slow the mechanics of some of our rushes down with our inside players so that we can just play off and see what the quarterback's doing to make him throw it. But then when we do our research, he's not throwing the ball versus those deals. He's actually throwing the ball versus pressures. So let's get him to do what we want him to do. Let's pressure so that he will throw the ball. All right, so just a little look at what you see, all right, at the highest level, how the game evolves down from the highest level to college, all right, back down to high school. I am one of the older guard coaches where if I had a quarterback that wasn't mobile, I'd probably pressure him more. If I had a quarterback that was mobile, I would have went into the safe world. It's happened to me several times in high school, and I have got burned by it. And now that I have watched some things on film and watched some of the NFL guys do it and listened to some of the theories behind it, it makes total sense to me. If guys won't tuck it up and run when you pressure because they think they need to get the ball out of their hand, well, if we want it to get out of their hand, then let's show them what they want to see. Let's show them those pressure looks. If we don't get home, at least we force them to beat us with the passing game and their receivers. And now we've got to be creative with how we are helping our guys in coverage, and we got to be creative with how we are changing some of those coverages. All right, so again, if you are not a subscriber, make sure you turn you're subscribed to the channel. If you don't have your notifications on, make sure you ring that bell, turn your notifications on. You know every time we do a video, every time we go on YouTube Live, you will get that notification. Thumbs up, thumbs down if you like the video or you don't like the video, the content, how it's presented. All right, leave a comment. Every comment that you leave, I try to respond to. If you leave one about a video and I think I can do it, I will try to do it. Hope everything's going great in the off season for you guys. We're getting down to the end of football season. Got one game left. Should be a good one, Chiefs and Eagles. So I'm going to be interested to study some of that stuff and look at what they're doing and see if it correlates to our game. So should be an exciting next couple weeks before the Super Bowl. So enjoy that last game. Hope the offseason is going great. Hope everybody's healthy out there. Remember, you won't play well until you play fast, and I will see you guys next time.